Peterson Electric here today in Fort Collins, Colorado. We've got a permit on this job. Customer's trying to change one large room into 2-bedroom in order for him to try to rent it. This is a good example of what you need to do in order to update that circuit for this room. So basically we had to trace out this circuit, make sure it was grounded. This home was built in the 1950s, so it had no grounds. So here's a prime example of what you have to do to update, as well as what it looks like without grounding. Okay, so right here, I'll just show you the room far back. They had to cut out drywall along hip height right here, under knee high. And we're going to be pulling that wire out. Here's a prime example of a cloth wire. 2 wires, no ground inside of this cloth. And these are these old small hickey boxes, which are like an octagon. They got this angle in the front and the back. To code, those have to come out as well. But this cloth wire has to come out. So they will not grandfather this in, so they had to cut drywall. I'll pull that back as far as I can and cut it. Same over here. Old staple, old box. We'll pull that out. And then right here, this coming down, they had a 14 gauge mixed with a 12 gauge, and you can't do that. So we're going to have to yank this 14 gauge straight out, and the 12 gauge we'll just use as our switch loop. Right here they had to pull drywall because they didn't pass their electrical rough, so they made them pull this drywall. And we're going to basically come out of one of these boxes, drill around, come through, hit that stud, come around, come through, hit this plug through those studs. And then, odd enough, the city of Fort Collins is just making us right now just do battery smoke here, battery smoke outside the bedroom, and battery smoke inside that bedroom. We'll just plug in a CO2 detector down here. Some cities actually make me hardwire that in. This right here is just a 2-wire they pulled in with a Romix number 12. So we got to match all the Romix through the room. That's 12 now. Right here is going to be our switched outlet, but they would like to have a light up here. So we have to pull in a new number 12. There's a junction box up above. And then right down here is where we're going to do a double stack switch here. So coming around, there's power in that outlet once I get it connected up above and this junction up above here. And I think we'll drill through either that wall or the other side to connect those. Now there is a problem over here. This was a 2-wire here. This one was actually a 3-wire. This 2-wire here with this box, we're going to probably have to cut out. I may see if I can fish up to this edge, cut a square out here, cut a square out here, drill it, and then see if I can pull it to the junction box, which is above this wall. And then up here, we've got a little keyless fixture that was in here. You cannot use a keyless fixture. You may ask, what is a keyless fixture? Well, it's in your garage. That's a keyless fixture with a light bulb. You can't do that. It has to have a shell, so they make a new fluorescent one with a GU24 base and a compact fluorescent for that shell. So as you can see, these 2 bedrooms are isolated from the kitchen to make sure that no other circuits are on these 2 bedrooms. We are only going to use 1 circuit for these 2 bedrooms because they don't dictate in this city how many outlets I can have on a circuit, but we're only going to have 1, 2, 3, on the other area 4, 5, 6 plugs and 2 lights. Well, 4 lights because we're going to put a light up here the same way. I'll show you guys the trim when I'm done on this video, but this is a really good example of how I've had old pass number 14 NM cable put in with number 12. I've had cloth wire right down here with the old boxes. I've had no grounds, and they won't grandfather that in, so all of it has to be updated and pulled in correctly. And then in my panel, I had to do an arc fault breaker. I'll show you that real quick. Panel odd enough by the entryway of the front door. Nice. Put a picture of it, I guess. Right here, we got our number 12 arc fault put in order to set it. Square D home line breaker, 10,000 ASE fault current. So we got that to actually hold, which is good. And we tested it. But yeah, up above I've got a junction box and it had way too many wires in it. and it had cloth number 14, number 12 all mixed together, and the wire nut was all loose. So I could try to show you guys a video on that. But yeah, so when you're doing an update and a remodel, he's doing it correctly with a permit, which is good. He hired a GC to do that framing side, and then we just attached to the homeowner's permit. You cannot, homeowners, when they do their own permit, they can't go down there and tell them they're going to do their permit and do the wiring and then hire a guy that's unlicensed to do it. He couldn't even hire me on the side if he pulled a permit like that. You have to actually, we have to tell the city who we are. We're already registered with the city of Fort Collins, and then therefore they have to attach us to their permit once they know the price of what we're going to do for rough and trim, for total, for the material and time. Anyways, so yeah, the customer paid for the permit. We went ahead and did all the materials and that's in the labor, and we just encourage you guys to try to do the right thing when you're doing that. It hurts you in the long run trying to not update it. I mean, here's kind of in a nutshell for the 2 bedrooms what we're dealing with the circuits. All this black stuff right here, I just drew it out. I'm demoing all that NM cloth cable, no ground, number 14. All that blue coming in is what I'm dropping down from the ceiling down below. And the orange was what was already ran, so we had to pull drywall, and I had to inspect it, and the city wants me to sign a little letter saying that it looks good, that whoever ran this in the wall, so I made them pull drywall on the other side over here, and making sure that that was okay. There's no screws or staples or something funky on that. Tested my arc fault breaker. I'll test it all hot now when it's roughed in, and then just turn off the arc fault, and then they'll do their mud and texture, and I'll come in and trim it out. That way I know it's going to set. Here's our battery spokes, our CO2 plugged in, and then we made sure our spacing was right. Now, odd enough, the city didn't make me put in an extra plug right here and right here. The code says in Article 250.52 that if you have any space more than 2 foot, which this is probably 28 inches, it's a very odd space because the door is going to open against it, so they didn't really care to require that. And then in here, the door opens the other way, but I asked them about this, and they said, nah, don't worry about that right there, because there's really nothing you can put there. But they just said as long as we're making everything else updated correctly, and we have our plug within 6 foot for the break of that, well, no closer than 12 foot, so technically I may not even need that, but it's ideally their bed might be on that side, and then a plug right over here within 6 foot for the break of that door. And again, you can do a switched outlet. You don't have to do a switched light. So this, I could get away with that just fine, but really when you walk in to have a lamp right here in a desk and that's your light, he wanted a light put in up above. And they also had a ceiling fan hanging here, and this is actually only rated for a light box, though it's a 1950s box. It probably could have held it just fine with those old bracket boxes, but technically it doesn't say that it's ceiling fan rated, so you can't hang it on there. And that's because the screws in there are typically a 632 to an 832 size, and really when you do a ceiling fan it's going to be a 1032 thread, and that's really the reason why. So over time it doesn't wobble and break, but we took that down. We'll just put a normal light up now and we're fine. Other than that, in the attic I'm going to blow out that junction box. They didn't have a blank cover on top of that, and I can get up there and show you guys a video on that too. I'll have a part 2 to this and maybe a part 3 for the final on it. But yeah, sorry the video is a little long, but I'm glad to explain all this. This is like a daily occurrence that I have to deal with. People just thinking, hey, I'm doing a simple wall I'm putting up, not a big deal. I'm dividing my home. The bottom line is that most of the cities want to know if the bedroom went from a single to a 2, or 2 to 3, or 3 to a 4. And I think it's all because of tax purposes. I don't know. But if you want to rent that house, especially in the city of Fort Collins, because it is, you know, a college town as well as Boulder and Greeley, you're supposed to have those permits in process so they can inspect our work and everybody else's. I always encourage people. It is a pain though, because sometimes the older panels like the FPEs and the Zinskos, you can't even put on a new arc fault breaker. And now in a kitchen, if anything's any plug within 6 foot of the edge of that sink, you have to now GFCI and arc fault those plugs, as well as be accessible to reset them. So even on a kitchen remodel like this, if they ever did it, you got to make sure you have adequate spacing, right size wire, 2 20 amp circuits supplying just the counters at least minimum, and then as well as any other appliances you have to supply, and the GFCI, AFCI protection. So you're in Article 250.52, 210.12, 210.8. Also in your lighting circuits, which is going to be in 250, or excuse me, 210. I think I'm saying 250. I mean 210.52, 210.8, and 210.12. So and your lighting is going to be in there as well, as that has to be separated from any of your 20 amp branch circuit or your dedicated appliance circuits. That lighting is separated as well for under cabinet as well as above lighting in the kitchen. So this is kind of a real prime example that when we come in here, it's kind of an odd setup, but technically this is your nook, technically your master, your second bedroom. I guess that's considered an entry hallway, if you will. But there is an area to sit and put an office desk, so they'd still want an outlet like they have right there. And then right in here, of course, your kitchen. So every house is a little bit different. That's why some of it you can kind of quote, but a lot of it has to be quoted by going through and looking at it. And on this quote, I actually had to get in the attic, look around a little bit, and figure out what they did. But yeah, so thanks guys for joining us. Hopefully this will help you out.